It's all about brute force, sheer acceleration in a pursuit of ultimate speed in the shortest amount of time. The spectacle is like nothing else on Earth. But when we slow it all down, it's only then do we really see the forces at play. And the beauty of 12,000 horsepower. Welcome to Sydney and round 4, the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. One of the most iconic events in Aussie drag racing, and it's so cool to have it back here at Sydney Dragway. It's the Gulf Western Oils Nitro Champs. It's also round 4 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship. It's been a mega season so far. Phil Lamartina is narrowly hanging onto the points lead after a wicked event over in the West. As we arrive here for round number 4, the championship is still well and truly alive, and a massive crowd here with perfect conditions here in Western Sydney. Those conditions last night, while tricky, were very, very fast on track. So let's relive the highlights of a record-breaking night in qualifying. The first qualifying session for round 4 of the series was held in perfect conditions. In a rematch of the Perth final, Damien Harris paired up with Pete Gibberis. The pair setting the pace early, Harris stopping the clocks with a 381 at 515 kilometres per hour. Gibberis right beside him with a 383, 512. Lamartina Family Racing teammates were up next. Olive with issues early, but Lamartina had a spectacular fireball, rolling to a 396, 399 kilometres per hour. Phil Reid and Wade Newby completed the final pairing. Newby straight to the number 1 spot with a 380 at 520 kilometres per hour. Brilliant run from Reid, 384 at 494 Ks. Challenging conditions met teams for the final qualifier as track temperatures plummeted. Changing lanes from the first round, Reid and Lamartina were first out. Despite fire near the finish, Lamartina moved himself to position number 3 with a 382 at 496 kilometres per hour. Reid's 392, no improvement from round 1. Gibberis and Olive both suffered tyre shake, neither delivering a result. The final pair of the night saw the Rapisada team cars, who were already safely qualified first and second. Not content to take it easy, Harris threw down a new track record of 377 at 327 miles per hour, 526 Ks. The Santo Rapisada Junior Tune car recording the fastest ever speed over 1,000 foot in Australia. For Newby, instant wheel spin. So an incredibly tight field with 5 cars, separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Round 1 of racing, it's Lamartina up against Gibberis. Reid will face Newby, and Harris takes on Olive.
Hometown. You couldn't script that. Now, if we follow the script, that means this guy right here is going to win today. Now, well, that's how it works, right?
Absolutely, that's exactly what he'll be hoping. The Premier High team sitting second in this championship, and would you believe it, they've drawn the championship leader. What a way to bring the noise to Sydney. First pairing. Good to have you back, Wade.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Sorry I missed the Perth event. Great crowd in the house here in Sydney. The Lamatinas, that long sponsorship and association with Fuchs. Aaron Morgan always had a very funny way of describing how you pronounce that. There is the man who has been so fast, but has just not been able to put the exclamation mark at the end of the sentence. Maybe. Sydney is the venue for Pete Zibris to finally get that result, but gee, I tell you what, he'll be filthy. Lamatina after Perth, that did not go his way.
No, lots of clutch dramas. That was the story for them in Perth. Fuchses and chooks, not as in.
Correct, ducks. Exactly right. I was wondering whether I was going to actually get a chance to run through that whole way of saying it. I just love the disturbance of the air just over those rear tyres. Quite phenomenal. Those big Goodyear Eagles. Just look at the atmospheric conditions over the top of your average top fuel drag racing motor.
Conditions about perfect here in Sydney. First versus second on the start line. Lamatina has the reaction time advantage so far this year. Can he execute here? Round one.
Boys taking a while to get in. Oh, very good reaction time for Lammy, but Pete will run it through and get the win. 513 kilometres an hour.
The ET Wade, 376. We had that track record set last night at a 77. Why don't we just go and lower it? That is the quickest ET of the season so far. Where did that come from? Wow.
That was a good run, wasn't it? Almost right down the centre. Premier High guys very happy indeed. Right along on wing cam as the shoots deploy.
Oh man, what a way to start this off. And for Lamatina, again getting that reaction time advantage. Look at the way that it strikes down on the start line. Those big Goodyear tyres just start to wobble. It couldn't quite keep the traction. You're going to watch Zibris just drive away with this one. And that 76, what a great performance. And that is an emphatic way to steal the championship lead.
2 weeks, the 3 weeks is a long, long time in drag racing, isn't it? You think back to Lammy on top of the world at his home track, Sunset Strip in Mildura, then he went to the Perth Motorplex. They just couldn't get a handle on the place, even right from qualifying. Now here he is back in Sydney, a place he has lots of experience. And Pete says, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya in round one.
How cool is this? Watch the speed, that's the finish line. Just the tiniest lift of the throttle, all Zibris needed. They're marching through with the perfect score so far.
You drove us both into a wall. I drive away into the night, and I contemplate for a while.
Obviously, we were around it a lot as kids. But the first real memory for me and being sort of more involved was around 2003 at Willowbank. Dad drug us along. It was sort of like, oh, Dad's taking you to drag races this weekend in Queensland. And I remember sort of having a little bit of resistance, like, nah, I don't want to go. Anyway, we got through the weekend. Glenn Micros was driving the car, and we didn't really have a good weekend, but I think that's sort of where the bug started. And then obviously with the history of the team and with Dad having raced it with Louis, that's part of the reason why we're still racing today.
Louis Rapisada was Santo Sr.'s firstborn son, who tragically lost his life in July 1990 while testing his Top Fuel dragster in Queensland. The Rapisada family race in memory of Louis, and 32 years on from that fateful incident, the younger siblings have developed into a force in the Top Fuel scene. With a multi-car operation both home in Australia and over in the USA, the boys have been mentored by some of the world's best.
We've been fortunate to learn of highly experienced people like Glenn Micros, who go a long time back in drag racing, and then racing in the NHRA with the setup that we have over there. We were able to learn off of current crew chiefs that have been world champions, as well as their team members. We were able to adopt the techniques, methods, the best ways to put these cars together and run them. We got to a level of confidence and knowledge and people around us to where we're able to run the car on our own.
As far as managing the team in a whole. We both do that, and we do, you know, are heavily invested in the whole team, but also heavily invested in our own operations, because you have to be. These cars are so demanding, and you have to be all over it. Otherwise, you know, it won't be as successful as what you want it to be.
Our tune-up at the moment, we would say, is a bit of a winter casserole. There's
Call it
a
a
little
mongrel.
bit of everything that we've picked up over the years that we understand how to make changes to adapt it to different racetracks, and we are constantly changing it to see if there's a better way, because there are better ways out there at all times. We've both got complete volunteer teams, and our drivers want to succeed, so it's a very healthy competition. You know that we're so closely matched that it could go either way, which makes it quite exciting. So if you don't get it this time, you could get it next time. It's anyone's game.
You know, we build componentry for each other's cars, so it's not like it's all one sole operation. Like I do the motors for Tino's car, and Tino does the blowers for my car, and anything in between.
You can win and lose from the workshop, so if your preparation is going to let you down with parts failure or componentry failure at the track, then you're setting up to have a low chance of success. But then at the racetrack, it's about making good decisions.
Coming here, it's another race, it's another racetrack. I haven't always done the best here in Sydney, but we're looking to change that around. But look, as long as one of those RAI cars are taking home that tall trophy, then that's all that matters, really.
That just gets me going. The Rapisada team, you have to say, wholesale invested. But coming up, Damien Harris, what a phenomenal return to form for the man they call who saw funny cars as a 13-year-old at the now defunct but iconic Ravenswood Raceway. Now comes up against Shane Olive, the rookie. It's been a tough initiation, but I don't think Shane thought it was going to be easy, let's face it.
True. Whether he thought it was going to be this hard, I don't know. I mean, his testing and his licensing was so strong. I don't know why it's just not coming together on the racing so far for Shane Olive. He's now got the short straw because he's up against the number one qualifier.
Damien Harris is so withdrawn. He doesn't let out a lot of emotion. Even when they poured the champagne over him at the end of the Perth round, he was kind of like, really? Like, he wasn't really in the zone of it. He's just like, let me just do what I'm here to do. As we see, the Rapisada team prepare.
Last time these two met, Wade, was round one of event number 2, Mildura. There goes Santo Jr. Walks away, slaps that rear wing. Can Harris continue on with his very good form off the back of that win in Perth?
No. Just a devastatingly fast run for Damien Harris. 5:13. I was looking at Olive thinking they didn't get away too badly. A 393 up against a 381. Now that's the incrementals in terms of your ETA, but reaction time, he just didn't get away out of the line the way he'd like to.
Yeah, and he was going to chase down that 81. Nice work from the Rapisadas. That's more points in the bank. Remember, this round of racing, every time you move through, you need a win. Keep going, but it's not impossible for Shane Olive. We did see in Mildura, Wayne, you'd be losing round one and still make it to an A final. Every single time you get to the racetrack matters. Collecting those points, it's not elimination style. So continuing in the next round, needs to start getting some win lights though pretty soon, Shane Olive, from Damien Harris's point of view.
So hard to run someone like this down when he goes straight down the middle like that. Got away smartly and never really gave Shane a look in. Here's a look at half track. Yep. And at 1,000 foot, it was all Damien Harris, whose form is just stellar right now.
Did a nice job. That car just crept out of the groove for a little bit, put the right side tyres out of there. Easily lose traction when that happens, but stayed in it. Damien Harris moves through with Pete Gibberis so far as the winners.
Yeah, and round one winners here right now. Oh, the Reed family, wow.
See the way that car just jumped there? That was like an 80s burnout for Phil Reed. Heisling Dragster just got a bit of airtime then on the burnout.
A little bit surprised to see that. These guys, of course, this is their backyard. Same can be said for Wayne Newby, who's done 1 million laps. top alcohol before this top fuel career, but look at that. Wow.
I mean, that happens because these rear tyres, they get so skinny in the burnout process, it literally just jumps off that tyre. The way it did then, it launches it upwards and sometimes a little bit too much momentum to pick those good gears off the ground. Wayne Newby now. These two have met on a couple of occasions so far this season. Phil Reid holds that record 2-0 so far over his good buddy, and both local boys here in Sydney.
Yeah, Newby would be filthy, though, that he hasn't had a round win yet. The Rapisada Autosport International team go to work on cleaning up the big Goodyears. And there is Bruce Reid, vastly experienced crew chief.
How's the average reaction time for these two at the moment? 0.103 Reid so far in the season, 0.104 for Newby. Separated by 1/1000th of a second. This has all the hallmarks of a good drag race.
Two iconic teams here squaring off at Sydney. Bruce just leans in, taps the helmet of his brother. As we wait to launch to wrap up round one.
Disappointment for Reid is going nowhere. Newby is straight down the middle, and look at the time. It's another 70. 3:78. Wayne Newby. Wow. And then we've had three cars now, half the field dip into the 70s. We hadn't had one all season. Now we've got three. Awesome stuff.
Everybody's starting to really get their act together, aren't they? Top speed bonus points, 5 available there for Noobs as the boys get absolutely pumped up. Just makes you wonder with the Reid situation before, Chad, was that an extension of that very ugly burnout situation we saw?
It wasn't happy on the start line, was it? How about the weird movement of the tyres on these cars, the way they distort like that? Speaking of distortion of the tyres, when you slow it down for Phil Reid, it isn't pretty. And that tune-up not quite where they wanted it. Just watching Wayne Newby sail away.
Imagine the vibration through the cockpit for Phil in that situation. The Black Mamba, the car they purchased off Darren Morgan.
It's so fast, doesn't it? That is all the invitation Newby needed.
That's a perfect run for Newby, isn't it? Right down the middle. Did not even get out of the groove.
Big celebration from Santino Rapisada on the start line. That was the number they wanted to see. Actually, a little bit of debris coming away down. Let's have another look at that. Might have even been the plug leads coming out as that car went down. So there we go. Yeah, it's ripping the plug leads apart. So despite the fact that it was in the 70s, it wasn't perfect. So it shows that there's still more room for improvement there for the Rapisadas. You see some debris flying away. There it goes.
You never get a chance to relax in Top Fuel, do you?
Not 3.5 seconds, that's for sure. 0 to 500 plus kilometres per hour. And that was a lovely, lovely pass. So the fastest will race up against the guys who lost with the slowest DTs. Pete Gibberis will be up against Phil Reid. That's a replay, the final round here, the 8th final back in January. Shane Olive up against Wayne Newby. A pair of Sydney boys are going to have at it here in this second round of racing. And the once championship leader, Phil Lamartina, up against the Damien Harris man, who is in form right now. In many respects, a Top Fuel dragster is a little bit old school in some of the technology. I mean, look what I've got behind me right now. The motor itself, I mean, we're talking about old school stuff here. Pistons, conrods, crankshafts, a fuel system, yes, it's impressive. The clutch at the back, everything's on a grand scale. But when it comes to the technology, it's all pretty old-fashioned stuff. Where the true technology lies to a Top Fuel dragster is here, the electronics of the vehicle, which sits in front of the driver and just about midway point of this car. And this is where everything is managed, from the clutch timing, fuel system, the engine management, the mapping. Everything happens in the brains of the vehicle right here.
So in front of me is all of the electronics that we use to tune a Top Fuel engine. The front part here is the clutch system, we have the ignition system, and we also have the data logger. We also have the timer system here, which controls both the clutch, the fuel system, and the ignition system. The command module, it's basically a timer and air regulation system. The fuel system is basically a valve, and the valve on the system is designed to close as it goes down the track, which pushes all of the fuel to the motor. When we leave the start line, we don't need all the fuel, but once we're off the start line and the mass is moving, we start to feed a lot more fuel into it.
Our cannon here is like a hydraulic cylinder, which bypasses back into an accumulator at the front of the car. It runs through our needle valve here, which is controlling how fast our clutch is engaging. So our clutch controller has multiple stages we can work through speeds. We have 8 different needle valves that we can run at different times and a regulator that controls our clutch pressure and our speed.
So the system here, we have a series of clutch flows and timers. The timers tell the clutch when to move. The flows tell the clutch how fast to move.
Our clutch will start activating about 1.1 seconds, and it'll go through the last valve to go off is 2.6, and that'll control how quickly our clutch engages.
This is our data logger, which logs all of the information from the motor. There's probably 30, 40 channels on the car. Engine temperature, fuel flow, return fuel flow, blower boost, hand pressure, ignition. None of the computer system controls anything on the car, it only monitors. We're not allowed to change anything on the car with the computer. This box here tricks the ignition into thinking it's advanced or retarded. We use a lot of power to move the car off the start line, but once we get out off the start line, we want to reduce the plate load on the clutch. So we actually retard the ignition, which detunes the motor, which allows the clutch system to relax. You can then feed it back in as you get past the transition zone and off you go. We want the fuel system in league with the clutch system. We want to apply clutch when we're putting in fuel, but we also want to apply ignition when we're applying clutch. So one goes hand in hand.
So basically the whole thing is a big balancing act between these 2 control boxes here. We've got to balance our ignition system, how much time we're putting into it versus how much clutch is going in it versus how much fuel's coming in. Obviously, if we want to run the clutch harder, we need to make sure that there's ignition timing there so the engine has the power level right, and then we have to have the fuel to match to that so that we don't blow it up. It is a very simple system, but it's very robust for what we do. It's a very harsh environment here behind us in this engine, so it's very works very well for us.
Excitement building for this second round of racing, and we are not too far away from lighting the fuse. Hydrolink Jim Reed Racing. This is a replay of the final, the A final that we saw here back in January for round number 1. On that day, it was Phil Reed who got the win light, got the max points. We've got those fast Rapisada cars here. They have been very quick. We saw last night, Damien Harris, top qualifier. He went out into the 3.77 second range, but this guy went even. Whoa!
Wow. Oh my goodness. Just drama on the start line here. Was that a nitro backfire? Oh my goodness me. This just shows you the volatility of this sport at times, and when you're dealing with nitro, anything can happen.
Okay, update from down here on the start line. And 2 of the Jim Reed Racing crew members shortly going to be transferred to hospital. I can confirm that everybody who is involved with the incident down here is conscious. But the big announcement here is we are going to go back to racing. The teams want to race again. Unfortunately, the Jim Reed Racing car won't be seeing the racetrack again tonight, but the other 5 teams are keen to get back to it. Racing will resume here at Sydney Dragway. That is the good news here for the Gulf Western Oil's Nitro champs.
Welcome back to Sydney Dragway. Chris Matheson on Nitro Voodoo. Nearly locked in a 5 at Perth. He almost got there this time with a 6.119. And that gets us back into top fuel dragsters.
And I want everybody here at Sydney Dragway to get out their phones right now, something that a lot of people will be used to doing at the Speedway. And I want everybody to get the phones out, turn on your lights, get your camera lights going, get the torch going on your phone. I want to send a huge message to Jim Reed Racing and those crew members who got hurt here tonight that we're thinking about them tonight. And when Pete Chibberis fires this car up for his solo pass, we're going to show them that everybody here at Sydney Dragway cares. Remember, Jim Reed helped get this venue built when it opened back in 2004. Sadly, not on the start line for this race right now. So come on, Sydney, get around me, get around Jim Reed Racing. Let's make plenty of noise. Let's get the torches going. Let's light up Sydney Dragway. Top Fuel is back. Round 4 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Championship, and that is a wonderful sight.
Well, safe to say Sydney Dragway is fully lit as we get set for Pete Chibberis to fire up. Wow, Chad, I've never seen a more dramatic situation in Top Fuel racing in Australia than on the start line before we even got started like that.
Nasty stuff indeed. Thankfully, the news is that everyone, is the word okay, but everyone's going to be okay, and all those crew members that we saw hurt a moment ago expected back at the racetrack. And this means Pete Gibbereth will have the quarter mile, or the 1,000 foot as it is these days, drag trip to himself. Awesome to see the crowd getting around the Jim Reed Racing team. May have borrowed that idea from you, Wade.
I borrowed it from Robbie Williams, so it's all good. It's a really cool livery. I really like the all white. It's fairly optimistic to go with white crew uniforms as well, but everyone still looks pretty pristine, don't
There
they?
has been a bit of talk about that in the pits, actually, now that you mention it. A really good chance here for Gibbereth to go through to the A final on 6 points. But he want to get back on that loud pedal pretty quick. No, it's over. Well, he might be vulnerable here. He's got the 6 points he wants. But remember, it's points plus the lower laps time that's going to get you through to the A final. So he actually needs results to go his way now. And parachute out, which is unusual.
Started okay.
Started strong, didn't it? The real problem here, Wade, is we had such a long delay between the first and second rounds with the incident on the start line. Look at that tyre shake. That all these tune-ups really went out the window. It's so much colder now than it was earlier. And once the air changes that dramatically, and the track temperature dives down, very difficult to fix the tune-up.
Such a balance, isn't there, too, between those cold atmospheric conditions that give you good horsepower and where you all of a sudden can't stick it to the racetrack.
Yeah, well, you can definitely get a car down in these conditions, no problem. But the window in which you can tune the car gets smaller and smaller, which means for Shane Olive here, he's back in the game in a big way. Especially with what happened to the Jim Reed Racing car, it is feasible that if he can beat this guy here, Wayne Newby, the guy who has made it to an A final before after losing in round one, he might just find himself in a good spot. But win lights have been evading Shane Olive so far this year. He desperately needs one here.
That element of experience is the only thing that this man on screen has to battle right now. Just starting to learn these cars, how to react, how they react to what you do. And then when you have to line up along someone like Newby, who has that experience, it's even tougher.
Shane Olive arrives in this race, 1 win, 9 losses on the season so far, but that is not a fair adaptation of exactly how well he's driving the car as his daughter welcomes him into pre-stage. He has the second best average reaction time in the comp right now. He's doing a great job driving. It's just things aren't going his way. Could this be the moment?
Still a huge crowd here at Sydney Dragway.
Hello.
Wow.
He's on here. Shoots her out early, but that is a win light that he has longed for at his home track as well. And Luke Marsden, the tuner, will breathe a big sigh of relief. That's also a personal best on the season. Shane Olive, hello. First win in that left lane of the night. Job done.
Almost into the 500k bracket as well, so they've got to be happy with that.
Tino knew straight away, didn't he? That car was not getting down the quarter mile. And how on earth that stuck to the racetrack for Olive? Well done, Luke Marsden. Good tune-up. We said that window small. Well, he found the tune-up within that shrinking window to get this track just gripped up enough to get the car down it, and that's a good drive job as well. Got close to the centre line.
Yeah, I was just going to say it wandered towards the centre line as well, which also can negate your run. If you cross that centre line, it's all over. That's so good for Shane's confidence. He really needed that.
Big time, big time. Watch for that Burson Auto Parts car to disappear. So long, and he's actually potentially in to the A final here. It'll come down to the next race yet, but I know that sounds strange because he lost round one. But the way things are working out, he's not out of this yet. Good run.
It's just got to devastate you when you watch your rival literally just blazing away from you as well.
I think I've noticed, Wade, is that car lifts the front wheels up at the head of the throttle quite a lot. Saw it doing that in Perth. Again there, but the balance shift front to back. Just watch the front wheels here. Wham.
She wasn't pretty, but she sure does dance nice.
That's the story so far. He gets his second win light of the year, and the team have certainly cause to celebrate down there.
Wow, it's been a dramatic night so far if you're just joining us for the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Drag Racing Championship. We've had a moment before the start line with Jim Reed Racing, and that has taken that team out of the competition. Damien Harris, who didn't start the season but is coming home like a lightning bolt now. looking to put himself into the final as well. The Atlantic Oil's Rapisada Autosport International Top Fuel dragster backing up against Phil Lamartina, who's desperate to make amends for a disappointing Western Australian swing.
First time these two have met this season, so this is the last matchup that we haven't had yet so far this year. So really interested to see how this is going to go, because this guy was leading the championship with Damien Harris. Well, he is the form man. I think that's what now, 5 straight win lights from Mildura through to Perth, through to here tonight. And the scenario is pretty simple. He wins this race, he goes to the A final against Shibboleth. If Lamartina wins, he needs to go quicker than his teammate, Shane Olive, with a 385. So this is still very much up in the air.
And 385 is stout.
It takes some beating.
You can't just trot the thing down the line and hope you're going to beat that. Same procedure every time when the Rappies leave the line.
Yep, slap that rear wing and hope now. Hope the tune-up's there. It's not for Harris. Lammy's on fire. He's on fire, right? He's going to,
oh man,
have a huge inferno at the finish line. I was going to say, light that car up and light up a win light as well. And 388, he misses the A final by mere hundredths as well. He's missed that by about 300ths of a second. That fire costing him a spot in the A final. But important points. Boom.
400 kilometre an hour inferno.
It's top fuel. Bang, look at that. So they have been leaning out the 8th cylinder a lot. So if you just watch bottom right-hand side, that's where the 8th cylinder sits. Is that where the fire starts? Sort of hard to tell, but it's pushed the head gasket out. Head gasket turns into cylinder head and a whole bunch of aluminium burning up. Once that fuel gets out, it literally just adds fuel to the fire. I know that sounds like a funny thing to say, but that's what it's doing.
That's a great start for both of them, and then it just all went pear-shaped for the Rapisada fuel car, and what a drive job from Lammy there.
See that little tinge of green at the start? That's the copper in the head gasket going.
I had my eyes closed, Chad.
And the white flame at the end, that's aluminium. And that point, it's starting to get pretty expensive.
That's probably the first disappointing moment for Damien Harris.
Yep.
In a couple of weeks, right there.
Yeah, I mean, last time he saw a loss was round 2, I think it was, in Mildura, so it's been a while coming. Should be good. Oh yeah, one fast barbecue.
And he kept it off the centre line. Well, conditions are getting a little chilly at this point, Chad.
Well, they're too cold, frankly, so we're not going to be able to run the finals here tonight, and there's some good matchups as well, because this in particular is going to be big for the championship, Lamartina and Harris. So the plan will be to run the finals when we go to Heathcote. And that is going to be an exciting way to wrap up round 4. Brand new track that we've not been to, and that's going to be the A final there. Shane Olive and Pete Gibras. All right, more action to come here.
Giddy aunt. The joint is packed here at Heathcote. We are concluding the 4th round at a different venue. And it is packed. I mean, you couldn't get another person in here with a shoehorn.
Precisely. We're going to finish off what we started in Sydney. So we're into the final round of racing in Sydney, even though we're in Victoria. And what an amazing story this is. The Hydrolink dragster is back. And it's not just the car that's back. It's burn out. All the crew members who are on that car in Sydney are here, including Gus, the guy who picked up probably the worst of those injuries, which is fantastic. And talking to Bruce Reid, the pride that is swelling within him to see this car here, the hard work that the crew did, the guys, particularly the ones who had to go to hospital, they were back at the workshop at the very first opportunity to get that guy, Phil Reid, here to Heathcote. Amazing.
Bruce is a real scientist. He loves every aspect of this sport, but even he would have a bit of a furrowed brow. Remember, the last time we saw them hit it, it was an ugly burnout. The car did not get down the drag strip. We just saw then another fairly unsavoury looking burnout from that Hydrolink team. So I wonder whether Bruce has got the arms folded a little bit extra tight this time. Here we go.
This is the C final. And it's a strange old race so far. Newbie's going to get the win light. He's going to do it with some damage as well. And that thing's still burning away. And you can see the liquid pouring out of it. Look at the flames still going over the tyres. Big, big heat.
It is such a violent concept. Everything about this sport, isn't it?
They're really quick.
Fire crew, yeah, doing a nice job here at Heathcote for the Summer Nats Slam, and you can just see noobs out of there very quickly indeed.
Might have got a little bit warm in that cockpit for one newbie. Let's try and decipher what happened. Unfortunately for Phil, it was over before he got to about half track.
They got some work to do, don't they, the Reeds?
Yeah, the tune-up's just eluding them at the moment, and bang. It's going to be really tricky to try and tune the cars for these conditions here. A lot cooler here at Heathcote. And also a track that hasn't had a lot of action in recent years in particular. I mean, we haven't had top fuel here in 3 decades.
Now, I've got to hypothesise here. There would be very few occasions that a round has been concluded at a different venue in a different state. You're thinking perhaps with, say, Nitro Champs going on to Willowbank or something like that for Winter Nationals, but it can't have happened very often. This is a very unique and rare situation.
Yeah, look at that fire. What is impressive, Wade, is it shows the unity amongst the top fuel teams at the moment, that they are prepared to move things around, to be flexible, to try and go racing and finish off what they started in Sydney. And there's people here haven't seen top fuel in about 3 decades, and they are getting reminded of how violent this sport can be. Look at that for a fire. That poor GoPro. I don't know if it's ever going to see the light of day again.
They build them tough these days.
So, it's going to have a little bit of a singed edge to it, I think. Yeah, look at that crowd. Fantastic.
Incredible to think Mildura was basically standing room only. The Perth Motorplex was enormous when Top Fuel finally returned there. And now here we are at Heathcote, and they have jammed them in. Phil Lamartina wing cam. Now Lammy too, he needs to step it up. Sydney and Perth were by no means his best result. This guy here was flying coming into Sydney, but even he fell short of the mark in his second round at Sydney.
Gee, that's a good sight. That's a wonderful sight. The crew here at Heathcote have done a brilliant job in the renovations of this track and also laying down the fresh asphalt. But I think that's what's proving to be tricky right now, is they haven't had a chance to put a lot of rubber down.
Yeah, that's correct.
Finding the tune-up's going to be quite difficult. But maybe that's just the opportunity that Aaron Hambridge, the crew chief on that Lamartina car, needs to get back some win lights here for Phil.
So you got a West Aussie closest to camera, and someone from women. Near Mildura, good light, a .08, but it's a solo pass effectively, and he threw the belt then as well.
Amongst other things, it looked like for Damien Harris, I think that blower belt definitely got flicked off the car, and he's picked up 3rd place. So that was the race for 3rd. That started in Sydney. Great pedal from Damien Harris. Just once off, once on, get to the finish line. Wow.
That was the good news too, wasn't it? If he had to salvage it, if Lammy was still alongside him, he still had a legit chance at winning that race. As you said, just off the throttle momentarily to settle it, and then bang, back on it. Candle's about to go out, and then just tromp it.
That was a pretty good effort to get those rear Gucci's hooked back up to the track for Lamartina. Not going to have a second stab at that one.
And the two superpowers of this arrangement, the Lamartinas and the Reeds, both with plenty of work to do. We have another round at this venue this weekend. So they've got some work to turn around an alarming couple of runs.
A little bit of body work that came off that Rapisada car there, similar to what we saw happen to Lamartina in Mildura. It's poking a little bit of a hole. Just watch the right-hand side here of Damien Harris, left-hand lane. Watch that body work rattling around. Whack. Shows you how violent these cars are. All right, more action to come here.
Every man, child, probably dog as well from Heathcote is standing right here. About to watch the final of round 4 of the Burson Auto Parts Australian Top Fuel Drag Racing Championship from Sydney Dragway. No, hang on. From Heathcote. So just to explain, we were supposed to have this race at Sydney. Unfortunately, cold track conditions after a lengthy delay due to a mechanical mishap on the start line has brought us to Heathcote, Victoria. Are you keeping up? Did I explain that right?
And who would have thought it would be Pete Gibberis? Okay, that bit I can definitely believe, because he's been the 4-man consistent. He's leading the championship. But up against Shane Olive, So out of nowhere, Shane, who was having a really tough season, found himself in an A final, a chance to win his first ever round of Top Fuel and help his teammate out, Phil Lamartina, because remember, he's second in the championship to this guy, Pete Gibras. Important points up for grabs here. Olive needs to grab them for the team. Here's a stat. Gibras has never won a final so far this year. Oh, here we go.
Oh, no.
Grab some throttle, grab some throttle. Olive hooks it up. He's going to do it. Pedal Fest wins. Shane Olive, what a way to win your first ever round of Top Fuel. That is awesome. The crew go up. They know the importance. His daughter's in tears. Shane Olive is a Top Fuel winner. And boy, did he earn that one.
He won with a 6.56. That is remarkable.
Wow.
That's almost dial your own style racing, isn't it? What an incredible situation. Could we have had any more drama in these round and a half?
That's like a supercharged outlaw pass. You'd be happy with a 650 something, but typically not in a fuel car. This should be fun. Once, twice, 3 or 4 times to get that thing hooked back up, and there it
You're
goes.
looking over to his side thinking he's coming. Surely he's along beside me somewhere.
How many times did Gibras try and grab this back? Straight off the hit of the throttle, no traction. Once, need the tyre to settle before he can hit it again. You've got to be patient. Maybe use the brake for a moment. Now go again, and it just doesn't quite hook up.
Oh, man.
You need to be so patient trying to get that throttle back down. You can't just slap it straight away.
Round 4 is dramatic on so many levels. And now we have another first round winner.
True. True, that's 4 from 4. And Lamartina stoked with his teammate. Thank you very much.
I can't believe it. This is insane. For Burson Auto Parts, Fuchs, for the Lamartina family, and not only Phil, his wife, the boys at home, my crew. I can't say enough about these crew guys and girls. My daughter's here, you know, Mick, Dean, Maddie. All the guys on the crew make this happen. They give me the car to drive, and you know what? First win, it'll sink in later tonight. I stood on it and it smoked straight away, and Phil's car did the same thing. So I said in my head, if it does it, I just got to pedal this thing and get down the racetrack. And I hit it once, it smoked again straight away. So then I just rolled into the throttle and off it went down there. It didn't quite make it to the finish line and went bang. I think it might have the panels out of it, but we've got a win. For Burson, this is amazing. I'm so happy. Thank you.
Yeah,
It was gone. Once I got back on it, he was gone.
Yeah, and that was it. Yeah, so congratulations.
Thanks, bro. Thank you for the opportunity.
If you want to continue the theme of a local hometown winner, Shane Olive from Heathcote, Victoria.
Hey, it started in Sydney, all right? He's a Sydney boy, so we'll count it. But the championship picture is still very much alive, courtesy of Shane Olive getting that win. So Gibras is there, but still some work to do in this championship with 2 rounds to go. He is the man of the minute. Well done to Shane Olive. Hey, if this show ever rolls to your neck of the woods, come and check it out. There's nothing like Top Fuel.